Welcome. This is Studio 101. My name is Josh Kane, and this is the semi-daily Bhagavad Gita Satsang. I'm probably going to be upset if I don't have tissues, so I'm going to get some tissues. I'll be right back. Where'd they go? How do I manage to lose so many things? There they are. All right. And I'm back. I took off a shirt too. So I hope you're doing well today. What we do here is we read the Bhagavad Gita. What I do here is I read the Bhagavad Gita, I play music, and I talk about spirituality. Talk about spirituality in the way that it applies to what we're going through in our lives as it is now. Not just our lives as in a hypothetical sense, and not trying to assume what it was like for people when this book was written and what that society was like. Because I don't know. I don't know what that society was like. I trust some of it because I do believe in the magic and the mystery of the sages and the wisdom, and I believe that, my beliefs don't really matter. What the essence of all this is that we have a double life that we live. We have our human existence, and then we have our spirit existence. The spirit existence is typically thought of as being not real. It's typically thought of as being, if it's only in your imagination, it's not real. That the only things that are real are the things that we can interpret with our senses. And what the Bhagavad Gita does is the Gita switches that. The Gita says the things that you interpret with your senses actually are not real, and what's going on, and it's not to even say that they're not real. It's just that that's not what you want to call true. The truth, the absolute truth, is that life springs from a place and returns to a place that is it's an essential creative nature, and we have a piece of that nature within our hearts. And if we are mindful, and if we practice our spirituality, and if we learn from these texts, and we study these texts, and we study from these ancient teachers, and we study from our teachers now, what we can discover about ourselves is that these two lives, these double lives of the human life and the spirit life, can be united, so that through our human lives we can live spiritually. And what it means to live spiritually means to believe that the spirit world is real. It means to believe that it's not just imagination, it's not just a fairy tale, and that the things that I see in my mind, that I conceive through my thoughts, there's a couple steps to that, but the things that I see in my mind and that I conceive with my thoughts, those things are just as real, if not more real, than what's actually already been created. Because what's happening in my thoughts and in my feelings and in my sense, in my internal sense, my felt sense, because it's internal and it's closer to the heart, that's actually closer to the source, so that makes it more real. And also, everything that we have, everything that we can reach out and see, smell, taste, hear, touch, originated as a thought. At least the things that we've created as humans. And if we're talking about this being relevant, then it has to be relevant to us as humans and as people. And the things that we have created, they started as thoughts. They started as ideas. And where did those ideas come from? Where do your thoughts come from? Where do your impulses come from? Where does this thing of imagination and the body and the vehicle of our consciousness, where does that come from? So what is explained in the Gita is that it comes from divinity. Divinity speaks to us in the story through a person, a divine person named Krishna. Krishna is the 8th incarnation of the God, the deity Vishnu. Vishnu is the sustainer of the universe. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer and the cycle ender. So what we're learning is how to trust, how to reprogram ourselves to trust that our thoughts and our feelings are divine and that we are divine. We're flawed because we have the human tendency to believe that what we see is the real, is the reality, that what we see, smell, hear, taste, touch is reality. But what we know from science is that everything that we see at a subtle level, at a vibrational level, is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly going through this cycle of birth and death. And so if we place our faith and we need these things in order to be consistently happy and be consistently blissful, then eventually we're going to be let down by them because they're temporary. But what we can't be let down by, what we can't be disappointed by, is the eternal infinite nature of the soul. And that divinity has given us an opportunity in this body to create a distinction, to discover the distinction and the difference between my spirit self and my human self, and then find the unity. Through discovering the distinction, I also find the unity. So there's a lot of paradox involved in all this. And that's what makes it a little difficult to understand. It almost makes it seem a little bit fairy tale-ish as well. So if you can detach from the fairy tale nature of it and see it as natural wisdom handed down from generation to generation, teacher to student, that helps us live more coherent, happier, more productive lives because we're not fragmented anymore. I'm not fragmented as, the stuff that goes on in my head isn't real, and then the stuff that's outside of me, that's all, that I place all my faith into that, money, possessions, and people and things. That there's a very healthy balance that can exist between the two, which most people right now, unfortunately, don't have. And it's challenging because we're not really taught how to approach spiritual wisdom without some sort of religious context around it, without the approach to the knowledge implying that now all of a sudden we're in the fold and we're in the faith. Now, I don't think that we have to necessarily do that. I think that you can learn from it. You can apply it to the faith that you've been raised with, and it will enhance and it will strengthen, but you have to open your mind. You have to contact that spirit part of yourself that is not just Christian, it's not just Jewish, it's not just, yogi. It's not that you have to access your humanness. You have to go to the root cause, to the root level of your existence, to your initial blueprint, which does not include the man-made construct of your religion or your social background or your job, your status. All those things are separate. Those are man-made constructs that are designed to socialize us and organize us. And what we are attempting to do here, what I am attempting to do here, what I've been attempting to do, is to say, put religion aside for a second. Put all of those constructs aside and just look at yourself as the framework of a human being who has this ability to make choices. And the fundamental choice is, what are we believing is real? Who am I? And why am I here? And what am I meant to do? And as we go through this, as we've gone through this, because we're in the last chapter now, it's just amazing. As we've gone through this, what we've discovered are many interesting systems. There are systems that are in place. That reality is not a random event. That all of this, the everything, is built on an order, a system of order and alignment. That our bodies have an order, just like the universe has an order, and that those things are mirroring each other at all times. And that inside it and around it and moving through it, igniting it and enlivening it, is a spirit, is a nature and a spirit, an essence that creates from a place of love. It creates from a desire for creation, a need for creation. It sees good and bad as the same. It creates all things equally. When it comes to our level of perception, we label things. We then separate the whole system as one of things just being what they are, not good or bad, not right or wrong, not light or dark, none of that stuff. Once it gets to us, then we qualify it and we classify it and we label it based on how we interact with it and based on how we experience it. So if something causes us pleasure, we would call it good. If something triggers pain or gives us pain, we would call it bad. But divinity doesn't do that, because divinity doesn't experience that in the way that we do. So those qualifications, like I could have a bad experience with a dog, where a dog runs up to me, bites my leg, scares the crap out of me, and then all of a sudden I'm afraid of dogs. Whereas someone who's never been bitten by dogs and loves animals is not going to have that same experience. So a dog is a dog. Dogs bite sometimes they don't. Sometimes they bark, sometimes they don't. My experience, my interpretation of the reality that I'm partaking in plays a large part in what I actually feel about reality, and then what I feel about myself. So if I'm constantly having negative experiences, or if I'm constantly finding myself in doubt or in question, then that's a really great time to start looking at, how do I perceive and how am I judging these things? Conversely, if I'm a person that's always having great experiences, always having wonderful things happen, everything's just always working out, in order to stay connected to humanity and to really stay connected to divinity is to understand and to get connected with the fact that there are people who suffer and who struggle because they have not had such happy experiences in their life. They have not had the good fortune of good fortune. And in order to understand them, and in order to relate to one another, because life is relationships, and we do want our relationships to be conscious, we have to check in with the fact that there are going to be levels of experience and levels of perception. There are certain things that I'm not going to be able to understand because of my good fortune. I can't really understand homelessness or poverty because I've never been truly homeless. I've never been truly impoverished. I can't truly understand oppression because I've never really been oppressed. So what I have to do is I have to strip back my labels. I have to strip back everything that I've been conditioned and use the text to get myself to a place of seeing things without that type of a filter, without my own human filter to it. And then really try to be able to connect at an emotional level to what's happening around me with others. This helps to build empathy. It builds compassion. It builds faith. And it's also extremely educational. And coming to the conclusion of this book, what we find is that the order naturally leads us to a place where renouncing my trust in the material world to bring me happiness would be the logical step. If you take all this into consideration and you see that it makes sense to you, then what happens is you start to see that I can't place my faith in something that's unreal. I have to place my faith only in that which is real, only in that which is true. And then I have to be able to give myself leeway, give myself room to stray from that, because if it's not what I was conditioned with in the first place, then my tendencies are going to go back to that. So forgiveness, compassion, real love and understanding, to remind myself that also others, they might not be ready yet to, I don't want to say wake up, but to open their minds to this kind of a concept, because their minds have been so imprisoned and so enslaved for so long. It's like they say in the Matrix, like some minds you can't free. Like they've been enslaved for too long. If you free their mind and you show them that their reality is not the actual reality, that have an embolism and they would just lose it. It's too overwhelming. It's just their whole sense of self then becomes destroyed. So it's got to be piecemealed out. You got to learn it over time, and remember to be very gentle with people as they're discovering. And if they resist this, and if they demonize it and they label it, just allow that. Just allow that. Because it's not that it's unreal. It's real. It's happening. And you're going to feel it. Just remember that it's temporary. Okay? Remember that it's temporary. That being said, let's do some chanting, and then let's get into the book. Super duper excited. I've been chanting Om Namah Shivaya and Hare Krishna in a different key, sort of in a different key. It feels really good. So I want to acknowledge and thank all of my teachers, thank my family, thank my friends. Offer my respects to Sri Krishna, Govinda. the Om Tat Sat to start. Om Tat Sat. 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 Tat Sat. Om 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 Tat Sat. Tat Sat. So that means hooray for the eternal nature of the universe. Hooray for the absolute. Like I call in, I acknowledge, I attest to eternity, to the absolute truth. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Namah Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om I love that melody so much, I never want to stop singing it. I have to check something. I'll be right back. All right. So, to the text. To the text. It's the best magical. It is. It really is. Good to see you today. Glad you're here. Oh, man. All right. So let's start with, so in chapter 18, verse 15. Actually, yeah, so we'll start there. All right. So whether a person acts with body, mind, or words, all actions, right or wrong, are constituted of the 5 elements. Therefore, one who thinks themselves the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. So I'm glad you're here too. So we're not alone in this. We're not acting. We're not islands out here just acting without consequence. Again, we're part of a system. Everything that we're in is a system. And if we struggle against that system, if we fight against that system, then all we have is struggle. All we have is suffering. And all the responsibility comes onto us to have to get it right. And if we get it wrong, all the responsibility comes onto us for being wrong. It creates a lot of misery, a lot of torment. Instead, if you look at the system and you look at the order of the system, you try to trust that there's a plan and that there's a higher power that's driving that plan and driving the chariot, and driving the vehicle, it changes the whole experience, because then you could say, all right, well, this happened today. And yeah, I'm here and I'm part of it and I'm witnessing it, but it's not all there is. And there has to be some part of it that's good, because it's coming. If it happened, then that means that it's part of divinity. It's part of the divine plan, and I have to trust the divine plan. Verse 17, one who is not conducted by false ego and whose intelligence is not entangled, even though killing in this world is not killing, nor are they bound by actions. So killing doesn't just have to be like murder of one person to another, but when you're sweeping your floor, when you're mowing your lawn, when you're driving your car, there are so many beings that get killed just from you doing your daily tasks. So you have to, if we find all life precious and we're trying to keep all life sacred, and yet we have to do our tasks, we have to understand that sometimes things are going to die. When I chop wood outside and I'm burning that wood in my fireplace, there are insects that live inside the wood that are getting burned. I can't go and weed through the wood and pull out all of the insects. What I have to do is I have to say, okay, this is a sacrificial fire. This is something that's here to keep me warm. And thank you for this wood. And may all the beings that are in this wood be liberated by this fire. May you be. Maybe it's part of their destiny that that in past lives, and this comes up a lot in the Vedas, that in a past life there would be a person who does a lot of penance, and then after doing that penance, they get great rewards. But then from their rewards, and they gain power, then they get more ego, and then from their ego, they end up making a mistake. When they make that mistake, they get cursed again, and then they have to go back and do the cycle all over. And if you're cursed, sometimes you're cursed to live as a tree, or sometimes you're cursed to live as an ant. You're cursed to live as a demon, and you live that way until some fateful event comes along and actually liberates you. So if you're an ant and you're a termite and you're living inside of a tree, and a devotee comes along and chops that tree down, burns you, then it's like you're being liberated by someone who's creating a ceremony on God's behalf. And the fact that you go into that fire in that body, that's your liberation. Kind of makes sense? It's a system. So it's all connected. You can't just isolate one part. You have to look at all parts. That's what makes it a science. If it was a science, then it would just be, like I said, it would just be Bob's yoga. It'd be like, well, you do whatever you want. And that's specifically forbidden in the scriptures. You're not supposed to just be doing whatever it is that you want. You're supposed to be living according to the natural order of things. That's why this is here. The stimuli to actions are 3. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. In the accomplishment of work, there are 3 factors: the senses, the work, and the doer. In terms of the modes of material nature, there are different kinds of knowledge, work, and workers, which you may now hear from me. The knowledge of one who sees in every living entity one undivided spiritual nature, which is divided into innumerable forms, should be understood to be in the mode of goodness. In every living entity, one undivided spiritual nature, that's the super soul that exists within the heart of every living being. And every living being is the multiple forms, is the innumerable forms of life, all with hearts, all with the spark of divinity within them. That's the mode of goodness. That's the step before transcendence. The knowledge by which one sees that in every body there is a different type of living entity is knowledge in the mode of passion. In every body, there is a different type of living entity. Why would that be in the mode of passion? Let's read the purport. The concept that the material body is the living entity, and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. I get it. So when you're in passion, you know that there's a spirit and you know that there's a body, but you believe that when the body dies, the spirit dies also. So that's the passionate nature. And I'm imagining that ignorance is going to be when you only believe in the body, you don't believe in the spirit, and you believe that the body is all that there is. Let's find out. I'm not going to continue going on with the purport. I only want to read the purport. Well, no, I should. Out of respect, I should. According to that knowledge, bodies are different because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul that manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond this body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary. Or else, there are no individual souls, but there is one all-pervading soul, which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there is no special individual or supreme souls. All such ideas are products of the mode of passion. 22. That sort of knowledge, which is attached to one kind of work as all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Work which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, love, or hatred, with no desire for fruitive results is said to be in the mode of goodness. It's all repeating the same stuff again and again. Do your dharma, practice consistently, detach from the results. Be in devotional service, detach from the results. Perform your work without attachment. Don't believe in love or hatred, without desire for fruitive results. Because they're temporary. Those things are temporary. Work performed with a desire for its fruits, with great labor and under a false conception of the ego, is said to be in the mode of passion. So do we want to work hard? Totally. Totally. Working hard is great. But if you're working hard for the wrong things, what good is it? How does that really serve? Like I could try to build a really, really, really strong house. But if I'm working my butt off to build a really, really strong house out of spaghetti, what's the point? The house, as soon as it rains, I'm going to be drowning in pasta. You know what I mean? Like there's no point in doing that. That's fruitless. That's a waste of labor. So we have to be intelligent. We have to discern. How am I building my house? What are the materials that I'm using? And what is work? Sometimes just meditation and discerning and sitting with my thoughts and sitting with myself is the work required of this body in this life at this time. You thought it just had to be a thing that you do. Work performed in illusion, without consideration of future bondage, and without dependence on scriptural injunctions. Work which is violent and distressing to others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So you have to keep in mind that your actions are going to have reactions. There's going to be consequences to the things that you do, good or bad. Good or bad. The worker who performs duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great enthusiasm, but without wavering in success or failure is said to be in the mode of goodness. So if you're happy with whatever you get, if you're just stoked to be here doing the work, like, okay, this is great, I'm doing God's work, I might have a good day, I might have a bad day, something's going to break, something's going to fall, I'll build this up, it'll fall back down and do this and do that. It's just kind of like part of the process. You do it because it's a service to divinity. You do it because it's what you're here to do. Doesn't make you a better person. You're not doing it to become a famous or amazing, validated person. You're just doing it because that's what you do. The worker who is too attached to the work and to the result of the work, who wants to enjoy the result, who is always envious, unclean, and subjected to joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. So this is a hard one for me personally. I tend to want to really enjoy the fruits of my labor. I want credit for things. I want to be acknowledged for things. And so that's one that I struggle with because of how I was raised, and it's how I was brought up. I was brought up, and a lot of us were brought up this way, to believe that we should be celebrated for the things that we do that are great, that we should be, hey, you did something great, take credit for it. You should feel good. You should feel this. And on one sense, that's true. Yeah, feel good, but don't attach to it. Don't hold on to it. Learn how to let it go. Learn how to let it happen and then push it off to the side and move on to something else and try to keep that joy going. Don't just get stuck in, I have this now and I created this and it's beautiful and I'm so happy that I have this and it's so great that I did this. But if you lose it, then there goes your happiness. It's gone. So just keep working towards more happiness and detaching from it and detaching from it and detaching from it. And eventually you kind of start to make progress, I think. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunction of the scriptures, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Ouch. O winner of wealth, Arjuna, I shall now speak to you in detail about the differences in intelligence and determination according to the different modes of material nature. Differences in intelligence and determination. Please hear this from me. O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one can recognize that should be done and actions that should not be done, what is fearful and what is not fearful, what is binding and what is liberating, is known to be in the mode of goodness. So when you know right from wrong, when you know that there are certain things to fear and certain things to not fear, what is going to enslave you and what is going to free you, then that understanding, looped in with all the other stuff, is goodness. O son of Pritha, that imperfect understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, and which therefore mistakes action to be done with action not to be done, is said to be in the mode of passion. So here, religion and irreligion implies that there's an order and a structure to the way that things go, and that it's practiced over time as a community. That's what religion is. If you're going against religion, then you're going against an order. And I think that, again, the distinction between man-made religion, contrived religion, and natural order has to be made in terms of intelligence. The religion of nature is a natural order of things. The religion of man is a reinterpretation of nature to receive a particular type of benefit, a fruit. The understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, striving always in the wrong direction, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. That's when you got everything backwards. When you understand everything backwards, then yeah, you'd be ignorant. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the mind, life, and the acts of the senses, is in the mode of goodness. Determination sustained only for the fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is in the mode of passion. That determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. Such unintelligent determination is in the mode of darkness. Now, dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. I think that you have to remember forgiveness. When you slip into the mode of darkness and the mode of ignorance, let's say you fall in love with someone and you have a dream of that love, but then you become fearful to lose that love. When the love is lost and you lament and you become morose, the way out of that, the first step, I think, is forgiveness. To forgive oneself for placing the responsibility of happiness on that love of the other person. For giving away the power to sustain love from the spark of divinity within my own heart or within your own heart. Placing that responsibility in someone else's hands, then they got two hearts to care for. It's very important to forgive yourself first and then forgive others. But if you forgive yourself, you don't really need to forgive others because you realize it was never anyone else's responsibility. It was my own choice. It was your own choice. You chose to give that. So, yeah. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the 3 kinds of happiness which a conditioned soul enjoys, and by which sometimes comes to the end of all distress. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So in the very beginning of all of this whole, back to the Instagram, what I was saying is that you have choices. There's right choices and there's wrong choices. Sometimes the choices that you make that are right feel wrong. Sometimes the choices that you make that are wrong feel right. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is like nectar. That's when you have to make the right choice, but it feels like the wrong thing because maybe you've never made the right choice before. Maybe you've only been living your life in wrong. And then you have to make a different choice, which hurts at first, but then you realize later on, wow, this is way better. Happiness, verse 38, happiness derived from the contact of the senses with their objects appears like nectar in the beginning, but at the end it is just like poison. Such happiness is said to be in the mode of passion. That happiness which in the beginning and the end is blind to the process of self-realization and is based on sleep, laziness, and illusion is said to be in the mode of darkness. There is nothing existing, either here or among the demigods, in the higher planetary systems, which is free from the three modes of material nature. There is nothing existing which is free from the three modes of material nature. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by their qualities of work in accordance with the modes of nature: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmins work. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cow protection, and business are the qualities of work for the Vaisyas, and for the Sudras, there is labor and service to others. By following qualities of work, every man, every person can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a person can become perfect while doing work. It is better to be engaged in one's own occupation, even if one performs it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and to perform it perfectly. Prescribed duties according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Every endeavor is covered with some sort of fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up work which is born of their nature, even if such work is full of fault. One can obtain the result of renunciation simply by self-control and by becoming unattached to material things and disregarding material enjoyments. That is the highest perfectional stage of renunciation. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. Being purified by intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats a small quantity of food, who controls the body and the speaking power, who is always in trance, detached and free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, acceptance of material things. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. We're almost there. Just a little bit more to go. We're going to save it for tomorrow. Sit with that, verses 51 to 53. Being purified by intelligence and controlling the mind with determination. Purified by intelligence is to learn what's real and what's not. And then to control the mind with determination means that even when my mind wants to believe something else based on what I'm seeing or what my senses are telling me, that I stay fixed in trance to know it's not real. It's not really what's happening. It's not really what this is. That there's a higher power in place. That's what the yoga is. That's what the yoga is. It's just that's just all it is. Well, my arms just got really big on this screen. I look like a condor right now. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have questions, reach out. And we'll be back again tomorrow to maybe finish up the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Thank you for letting me serve you. We say thank you to the body. Thank you to this space. Thank you to all of our teachers. And thank you to the spiritual science and the practice of yoga. Aho. Namaste. Word up. See you soon.